Greetings to you all. This is Tendai Dumbuchena, host of the Africa in Crisis podcast. Welcome to episode 7, which focuses on the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. The DRC, Africa's second largest country by area, in many ways encapsulates the state of the continent more than any other country. Blessed with an abundance of natural resources, which include a staggering array of minerals, the world's second largest rainforest, 80 million hectares of arable land, and abundant water supply. Its untapped deposits of raw materials are estimated in excess of $24 trillion. According to a United Nations report, the DRC can generate hydroelectricity for the entire continent of Africa. The country has the potential to be an economic powerhouse in Central, East and Southern Africa and beyond. Its strategic importance is magnified by its massive territory that shares borders with 9 other countries. So on the positive side of the ledger is the country's immense potential derived from its abundant natural resources. Sadly, as is the situation elsewhere in Africa, this potential remains largely unrealized. The abundant resources are not harnessed to create wealth for the country and its people. That only 10% of the 80 million hectares of arable land is cultivated is just one example of such failure. Decades of war, corruption, and political instability have impoverished generations of Congolese. The DRC's gross domestic product per capita and Human Development Index are amongst the lowest in the world. In 2019, the Human Development Index ranked the DRC 175 out of 189 countries surveyed. This means, inter alia, very little is invested in the education and health of the Congolese people. Armed conflict, especially in the eastern part of the DRC, is now in its third decade. During the war between 1998 and 2003, an estimated 5.4 million people were killed. The number is very high due to many who succumbed to disease and famine. An estimated 4.5 people are internally displaced, with over 600,000 refugees in neighboring states. A United Nations Security Council resolution reminded the DRC government that it, open quote, bears primary responsibility to protect civilians within its territory and subject to its jurisdiction, including protection from crimes against humanity and war crimes, end of quote. The United Nations has been in the DRC since 2001 to keep the peace and protect civilians. Its agencies such as UNESCO, UNICEF, and WHO still provide health and education to parts of the country the writ of government does not extend to. The UN Organization Stabilization Mission to the DRC, popularly known by the acronym MONUSCO, has tried its best to protect civilians and neutralize what they call negative forces, with limited success. A regional political solution by leaders in Southern, East and Central Africa is required to solve the fighting in the eastern part of the DRC. neither MONUSCO nor the DRC Defense Force can deliver a military solution. There are underlying issues that are at the root of the DRC's chronic instability and armed conflict that have to be squarely addressed by African leaders. The DRC has been badly governed since it attained independence in 1960. The astonishing fact that it was only in 2019 that the first peaceful transfer of political power was effected after an election is telling. Corruption is institutionalized with an illicit parallel economy, especially in mineral extraction, coexisting alongside an also corrupt official one. The assassination in 1961 of the country's first Prime Minister, Patrice Lumumba, portended the chaos that was to follow. A soldier, Colonel Mobutu Sese Seko, seized power in 1965 and established a fully fledged kleptocracy that had emptied public coffers by the time he was deposed in 1997. Mobutu not only stole money and resources, but destroyed all institutions supposed to underpin a modern state. American author Adam Hochschild famously wrote that, and I quote, "Government as a system of organized theft goes back to King Leopold II. He was referring to the King of Belgium, who personally owned the Congo Free State between 1877 and 1908. He plundered and pillaged his territory, committing what today are called crimes against humanity. The template had been laid for future leaders such as Mobutu to do the same in a country that he renamed Zaire. It would be unfair to ignore progress made in improving governance and accountability, but there is a long way to go. The people of the DRC cannot do it alone. Such is the enormity and complexity of their political, economic, and security challenges that external involvement is a prerequisite. If African leaders have ambition to develop the continent into a productive, stable, peaceful, and prosperous one, fixing the DRC is a big part of what has to be done. They must not think that the security situation in the DRC is the only issue of concern. The whole country needs an overhaul. A starting point would be to ask whether the DRC, given its size, ethnic diversity, and poor infrastructure, can be governed as a unitary state from Kinshasa. The answer is a firm no. The DRC needs a federal constitution. Then other issues can be tackled. I thank you. Listeners, do you agree that the DRC needs to be assisted to make it a functional democracy with a well-managed economy? Do you think it can manage to do this without outside assistance? How important is the DRC to the economic development of the African continent? Please post your comments below.